Name's Darren Levack. I'm an engineer by degree, civil and mechanical, but all of my professional career over the last 30 years has really been specialized in manufacturing, and specifically, I would say aerospace and defense.
Perfect. Thank you. And what did you use NC Transform for?
So NC Transform was introduced to me back in 2010, and I was actually struggling to manufacture parts for a engine manufacturer in Connecticut, and I kept going to the customer to ask for tolerance relief on these parts. And these were development parts at the time for the Joint Strike Fighter. And the first application or use was for a containment case for the Joint Strike Fighter, where we deployed numerical control transformation or adaptive machining.
And if I remember correctly, you guys also used MCS from NCSS as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that? How you used it?
Yeah, so the facilities that I ran had probably close to, I'm going to say 3,000 assets, specific CNC pieces of equipment. There was probably around 300. And what we used the machine communication system for is basically monitoring throughput and spindle efficiency. On one site, I put it on 35 machines of the 250 that were there, and those machines were my bottleneck machines. And those are the machines when we made a commitment or a promise to a customer, needed to be running for some 24/7 or 24/5. And I use that to measure the output daily, weekly, and monthly to make sure that those machines were in metal, cutting chips, so I knew that we were on pace or on tack to deliver that product to our customer.
Yeah, when you guys were using NCT, what benefits were you seeing in the manufacturing process?
So NCT benefits, first and foremost, was having the ability to manufacture the part right first time. So there's all sorts of benefits from a touch time and a processing time. So having that ability meant there was a reduction in rework, which we had rework. There was a reduction in actual concessions, meaning parts that were manufactured that deviated blueprint tolerances that I would need to go ask customers for acceptance of features that were not to blueprint dimensions. And those all went away. So basically all the rework went away, as well as all the concessions went away.
Can you tell us a little bit about the biggest problem that NC Transform solved for you guys at that facility?
It was just the actual manufacturing product to tolerance, and all of the issues that went along with that if you failed to deliver that product with the appropriate tolerancing.
So would you say that NCT gave you guys the confidence to bid on more arduous parts?
Absolutely. We started looking at the parts that we would quote, as well as how we would manufacture those parts differently as a result of NCT, both on the non-reoccurring engineering as well as the actual cumulative touch time and process time.
Yes, so did it also give you the confidence not to go back to your customers and ask for relief on dimensional requirements?
Absolutely. I mean, as we implemented this on our first part, which was a containment case for the Joint Strike Fighter, I used to go and ask the customer for tolerance relief, because we could not make a conforming structure. After we deployed NCT, I stopped asking, and I realized that this was kind of good old manufacturing IP, and this was a differentiator for us in the marketplace. And I stopped asking for tolerance because I said, if I have this technology and no one else does, they can't go anywhere else to make this part.
What percentage of parts were you using NCT on?
So once we deployed this on the first part, and we had the success that we saw from cumulative process time and equality benefits and throughputs of product, we deployed on every single part we had.
Love that. What savings did you realize as a result of implementing NCT? I mean, was it labor? Was it quality? Was it rework? Was it the lack of scrap?
Yes to all. One of our most important, I think, statistics is we in the 3 years that we deployed NCT across our entire shop, we probably reduced non-conformances and rework by 70%, and scrap by an equal amount.
Now, what led you to seek out an adaptive machining solution?
The struggle to manufacture conforming hardware and the pains associated with it, and the associated beatings from failing to meet, customer demand, revenue targets, and profit targets. I needed a solution that would work. And I guess you could say it was almost out of that desperation for how do I deliver these complex parts to a customer in the easiest way and simplest way. And I was introduced to NCT, and that's what we did. We implemented that technology, and the rest was history.
Yeah. So would you say when you implemented NCT, then instead of throwing overtime and evening and weekend shifts at it, you're able to get these parts out the door in a normal shift time then?
I mean, yes, what we did is that cut obviously down on overtime, or we would still work the same amount of overtime and catch schedule or increase our throughput.
And why did you choose NCSS over the competition?
At the time in 2010, 2011, it was right at the end of 2010 where we began to implement this. There was no other adaptive software solution that I was aware of that had the capability to even do this. And I had a lot of smart people that worked in the engineering group that, this was revolutionary. They hadn't even heard of adaptive machining at that point in time. This is 16 years ago. And I still think 50 to 60% of manufacturers still don't even understand what adaptive machining is.
Yeah. If you were talking to another manufacturer who's dealing with the same challenges you were at the time, someone on the fence about NC Transform, what would you tell them?
Just implement it. Just implement it on one part and you'll see a direct benefit on that first part. Take the leap of faith. Don't question the how it does it, just do it. And the proof is in the pudding.
And much like Hair Club for Men, you're not only a member, but you're an owner.
That is correct, yeah. I believe so much in the product. In 2019, I bought into the company. And it's been the best thing I've ever done. And, one of the things I think that is I enjoy the most is when I'm going and speaking with other manufacturers and we're able to solve the same type of problems that NCT solved for me, for them, and to have them talk to us about how this has increased and made a difference in their manufacturing facilities and their processes. It's extremely rewarding.
Can you tell us a specific story on how a product was improved or one part was engaged or a process was improved by implementing NC Transform?
Yeah, so, this is interesting. One of the first products that was a new product we implemented this on was what's called a thrust link or a thrust strut. And it's a main support bracket that goes from the pylon to the aft end of the jet aircraft engine. And these are used on commercial engines and commercial aircraft. Looking at this in a different way, we realized all we needed to do was to hold the part. And if you hold it, we can find it. And if we can find that through a probing routine, we can machine it and manufacture it. And it simplified our whole mindset on how do we actually fixture a part, which actually drove out a lot of time and a lot of cost in the fixturing of the part. And then we looked at it extremely differently as to how do we machine this. And we found that all we need to do was probe the end, have a baseline program, and we made conforming structures right out of the gate that were less cost and obviously faster to produce.
Yeah, as I understand, NC Transform is agnostic to the CAD/CAM program, the machine controller, and the probing or measuring system. Can you tell us a little bit about what CAD/CAM system you're using, what type of machines?
Sure. So we use Unigraphics on the jet aircraft engine side. That is kind of the premier or prominent CAD/CAM software package. But across the factory, we had all different series of controls and all different vintages of those controls. And NCSS's product, NCT, basically can go all the way back to an 11 series Fanuc or even any control series. All the computations being done offline and then fed back into the control. So it being agnostic means that the implementation can go across any machine within your facility.
Yeah. But what kind of probes or measurement system were you guys using in your machine?
So we used all Renishaw probing cycles and probing systems to do all of our probing with NCT.